this one.
I lied. In my last video, I said I would review 9 Souls, but that game doesn't come out for another 10 days. So like a squirrel for the winter, I started preparing for the video after that one, where I would give a synopsis of Thunder Ray. And I've already beat the game. I know this isn't 9 Souls, don't worry, that's coming. Just pretend these people are samurai and not Brazilians. Jokes aside, let's get into this story.
That strikes fear and boasts an undefeated streak, leaving a trail of defeated opponents in his wake. His talent and determination captivated all, instantly making him a sensation.
We start in the DLC, which happens before the events of the main game, where a promising, strong boxer known as Ray has made a name for himself by being undefeated in South America. Despite fighting opponents twice his size, he has the comeback power of conducting electricity through his fists, thus sparking his name.
A young and promising fighter is facing the opportunity of a lifetime. A battle for the World Heavyweight title. With a record of 23 wins by knockout, hailing straight from the United States.
Thunder Ray, having bested his region, goes on to the World Tournament, where he fights 3 of the world's greatest fighters. First up is the weakest Texan male, Uncle Slam. I actually have to revoke this joke because my Texan friend is hitting me with propaganda that Texas was a republic of its own, and doesn't like a Texan representing Uncle Sam. I don't believe a word this southerner says, but I'll oblige. We fight the weakest Gungeon male. Luckily for us, he has a very straightforward attack pattern. It also serves as a great introduction to the game, even if he is DLC. He displays the basic punch-out principles: duck wide swings, block jabs, and dodge towards the enemy. Wait a minute, I still got hit there. Maybe my timing was off. No, I definitely got hit for dodging towards them. This is where the first main gripe of the game comes in. Unlike Punch-Out, which was straightforward with how dodging works, this game doesn't follow that core principle. We have to trial and error our way through each animation to figure out whether you dodge left or right for each attack. For half of the game, this isn't too big of an issue because half of the opponents will only have 1 or 2 left or right side attacks. Okay, that animation was a right hook, now I know to dodge right. Simple enough. But then there's opponents that have several left and right hooks, and without the crucial core principle of, he's right side, I'll dodge right, you now have to memorize every animation, and it doesn't matter where the opponent is on screen. Now all of you Punch-Out fans watching the footage will understand my crackhead movement, and by crackhead movement I mean Uncle Slam cracking my head open.
1, 2.
After returning the favor, we move on to Khan, a heavyweight Chinese king hippo. He acts similar to Uncle Slam, but he relies more heavily on crushing blows. In other words, he only has a single attack that can be blocked, and even then it does a lot of chip damage. Dodging these heavy attacks is the name of the game. Even though I vented my frustrations about misleading animations, at least Khan has long wind-ups, allowing for fair reaction times. I would actually consider him one of the more fun matches in the entire game. I think that's an archetype everyone loves fighting against, not just in single-player games, but in fighting games as well. A heavyweight character that has fair, strong, reactable attacks. And if you get hit with them, it's your own fault. Heavyweight characters are also the most fun archetype to fight, because after they whiff heavy attack, they're combo food. We move on to the last fighter in the prequel DLC. All fighters in the game let you choose the difficulty you play on, but for him there's only one: Street.
Street Fighter 6!
There's no taking punches or spamming attacks in this fight. You have to be respectful and learn Hunter's attack patterns. I was just praising heavyweight characters a minute ago, but here we're about to see what makes a heavyweight character not fun to fight against.
Victory!
Hunter has really long and reactable moves, which you don't punish immediately after, like 5 times in a row. When I said the fight isn't fun, I don't mean it's bad. You can still react to each attack, so despite the cutscene combos he can dish out, you can perform your own cutscene combos on him when he's eventually done. His fight is even decent considering it's fair after all. What would make a bad fight is a cutscene combo that has unfairly fast, truly unreactable attacks that feels like it never ends. We'll get to that. We beat Hunter and solidify Thunder Ray as the world-renowned boxer.
He proved he's a well-rounded champion. There's no challenger who can beat him. This is the beginning of the legend of the undefeated champion who will reach the stars.
Similar to the more recent Punch-Out games, you have to not only win the World Cup, but defend your champion status too. Keep in mind I put the DLC first, because it acted as a prequel. This is where the story of the base game finally begins. Ray has been well known as one of the strongest boxers for some time now, defending his region of South America with ease. The most recent challenger to our title is a hotshot boxer known as Rico. He sees Thunder Ray as an inspiration, but also sees him as a chance to get his name into the boxing scene. A nobody challenging a world champion and maybe even beating him. Rico, the first contender, was a great parallel to Glass Joe. Both are full of themselves and they think they can take on anyone. The only difference is being that Rico is more bombastic and in your face, while Joe is pretentious and French. Overall, I like Rico more, but only because Joe is French. But MGE Justin, I hear you ask. Everything I've heard about Thunder Ray is that it's this flashy, futuristic boxing game, but so far this is just Brazilian Punch-Out. Don't worry, this is where the story we've all vaguely heard of begins.
He was surrounded by a mesmerizing fusion of abstract cosmic landscapes. Within a few seconds, he found himself standing in a completely different environment.
Ray and his coach are teleported to an alien dimension, where a tournament master has assembled the cosmos' greatest warriors to fight for our entertainment. Ray was Earth's greatest fighter, and he was chosen by the aliens to represent our world. This is basically the plot of Mortal Kombat, with the exception the tournament winner doesn't destroy our dimension. All the alien contenders here seem to only care about being the strongest. Some we'll see came here voluntarily. We don't know who the tournament supervisor is, but we do know he has no concern for ethics, as all of these contenders are allowed to straight up kill each other. Ray has little time to collect himself as our first fighter has already prepared for us. A Wrecking Ball fist fighter, aptly named Backbreaker. He clearly has little intelligence as he doesn't care about what dimension we're from and just straight up wants to kill us. Fortunately, only his upper body is armored and is very susceptible to low attacks. He plays like a standard heavy character, except most of his attacks can be blocked. This is still the early game after all. Most attacks shouldn't have to be memorized yet, just wait for an attack and block. There are a couple you have to dodge in any direction, but overall a straightforward fight. Ray is a quick learner, and as the fight goes on, Backbreaker looks more and more damaged. This is a nice touch for some fights. Our opponent will actually have cuts and bruises as rounds progress. We can see underneath Backbreaker's armor he's some sort of cyborg, a type of enemy that will be a common sight in this dimensional tournament. No Wrecking Ball fists can stop us as we pulverize the machine. Hey, he tried to kill us first, okay? This isn't excessive.
You win.
Our next opponent is Cobra, another cyborg, but he's more Ryu-inspired. In a tournament filled with beings from across varying dimensions, I'm a bit disappointed we fight two cyborgs in a row. We should have paced the cyborgs better. Luckily, he plays completely different from Backbreaker. His attacks are quicker and have more blows in quick succession. Another difference to Backbreaker is that Cobra isn't fun. He has several attacks that look very similar, and when you only have a fraction of a second to react on top of these similar moves, you're going to get unfairly hit a lot. Also, when you're low on health, your screen gets this annoying white overlay, and the camera zooms way too far in, to the point where it's difficult to see the attacks. If they removed this low health filter, it would have made the game way better. Even though I beat most of the game on Contender difficulty, I wouldn't blame anyone for playing this fight on Rookie difficulty. I memorized enough moves to keep just enough health to win the fight. Ray unlocks his first super ability after this, a very fast set of right hooks. Losing no steam at all, despite that pulverized loading screen, we move on to our next opponent. It's a witch who is also a pirate, who uses a force field to block a set amount of attacks and returns blows using lasers and portals. We're also fighting on the bow of a galactic ship. Now this is the variety I wanted to see in enemies in a dimensional tournament. It makes up for the two generic cyborgs in the beginning, but you really could have wowed the audience by putting the witch before them. And thank the Lord, the bright lasers and portals are great indicators for incoming attacks. You do have to do a little experimenting to figure out which ones you dodge and block, but overall this is one of the best fights in the game. It's also a nice detail that even though the witch isn't as burly as the other fighters, she's still a formidable opponent thanks to her skills, rather than some iron arms. Our coach even says she's been undefeated in the tournament so far and is projected to win. Unfortunately for her, she ran into Thunder Ray in bracket. Don't drown in pools. Unlike other endings, the witch gets to live, only by being knocked out by Ray. We're teleported to a dimension filled with vampires where we get to fight their strongest warrior, Worm. A pitch-black Dracula caricature that just uses a knife. What makes him strong by default is that he's a vampire that can't die to punches. Ray reenacts that scene from Robot Chicken.
Only a silver bullet can kill me!
Even if a creature is immortal, blowing them to bits is the next best thing. I wish I could show more of this character, but he's just a silly little guy. His moves are all well animated, vampire stuff, and he also just stabs you with a knife. Fortunately, our next opponent is far more expressive.
Mr. Pega.
Mr. Pega is a mystical being who commands...
Mr. Pega. Even though his fight isn't my favorite, it wins the style contest. It's a powerful wizard from a cartoon dimension that uses Looney Tune-ass attacks. The developers really had a ball with this one. When you go between rounds, turns out it's one of his body doubles, and he looks fucking pissed at you for trying to attack him. I didn't think you could out-pizzazz the witch, but he has attacks where he splits in two and you have to dodge both of them, or an attack where he puts you in a kaleidoscope and you have to dodge his reflections. Easily the most unique fight in the game. You get style points, Mr. Pega, but you do not get mercy. We finally beat all of his body doubles, and his last act is flailing around like a coward before Ray turns him into pudding. No amount of body doubles can save you from these fists. Next up is...
Champion of... But wait! Oh no, what a brutal attack. This guy sounds familiar. Evil Rico.
Rico, the rookie contender from the beginning of the game, has been turned into a super soldier that vaguely resembles Frieza? Just remember that South Americans love Dragon Ball. Rico is out for revenge against Ray. It is also objectively the worst fight in the game. I'm just gonna let the footage play for itself. This isn't even the final boss, and the fans, as well as myself, argue this is the hardest fight in the entire game. I don't blame anyone for turning on rookie difficulty for this. This should have been the final boss from a difficulty standpoint. I know the average reaction time for the adult male is somewhere around 18 frames. That's about 1/3 of a second if you're looking for one specific attack, but I swear, some of these moves are unreactable, and it doesn't help that some of them are back to back. Sure, a lot of his moves follow punch-out rules, duck high sweeping attacks, dodge in their direction for uppercuts, but the moves that you can react to have animations that bait the wrong option. It's like you're punished for reacting in time. The last time I saw something like this, it was in Elden Ring. You can guess a boss's attack correctly and still get punished for it. Oh yeah, did I mention some attacks are borderline unreactable unless you have chugged like 16 Red Bulls? Difficulty-wise, it would make an okay final boss fight, but because it isn't, it makes for the worst fight in the game. We take our coach's advice and make sure Rico stays down for good this time. Man, this game is a roller coaster of fun. I mean, my enjoyment changes constantly. You could be having the most generic, not fun boss fight ever, followed by the most unique, most fun boss fight. It happens at the end of the game too. The next boss fight is another complete 180. His name is Master Ziglass. He's a slow, fair, fun, heavyweight character compared to the fast, unfair, tooth-pulling lightweight that was Rico. Master Ziglass is the final fight in the game. He looks like he's been blown up before and put back together, stronger than before. He's been through the tournament and survived, and now he's the reigning champion. Despite his emotionless robot look, he does have rings on his fingers and his armor is made of gold, meaning he at least feels relishment. He holds his title in an almost nonchalant way, literally wiping down most foes with a single effortless punch. His bored voice lines become angrier as the fight goes on, and he gets new attack patterns.
Who?
His demeanor gets nastier, as a sign that Thunder Ray has ranked up from bore to nuisance to actual threat to the title. Master Ziglass may be the champ, but he forgot rule number 1 of fighting an opponent. Never underestimate them.
To the ground. Ray, the undisputed champion, now challenges the mastermind behind this tournament. The sky tears apart like paper. Everything becomes crimson as blood rains down, followed by the unsettling descent of flesh and lifeless bodies. The place fills with rotting corpses. Ray sees a large figure and other silhouettes beside. He is coming.
That's right, there's going to be a sequel, which I'm happy about because I want more than just 10 fights. Even though Ziglas was our last fight, there's more to unpack from the Tournament Master's reveal. The blood rain and his wicked smile makes his tournament out to be some sort of great harvesting of warriors, and this isn't just for entertainment. If the Tournament Master is going to eventually be an enemy, then perhaps this is all just a test for the Tournament Master, to keep training and proving the Master is the strongest in the universe. These are thoughts for another time. This is just the story of what we have for Thunder Ray so far, and what it is a silly, snappy, fun punch-out. Though the game is good, I can't recommend it right now because it feels short for $15. But when a Steam sale comes, I highly recommend picking this up. The responsive and snappy punch-out feel is here in all its glory. Even just watching the footage, it's as satisfying as it looks. Even with the RNG bullshit opponents like Rico and Cobra, every fight had great thought and soul put into them. The little details are great to find. I would even say there's replay value with the higher difficulties in the boss rush mode. It feels weird calling this the complete story of Thunder Ray, as the full story hasn't been revealed yet. So let's just consider this the complete story of Thunder Ray, in parentheses, the first. I'll certainly be back for the sequel when it comes out, so subscribe to hear the full story. That's all I have for now. Next up is Finally 9 Souls. I'll see you in that story.